Okay. Today, I'm Rojo, and I'm going to be watching TSM versus Cloud9 Golden Guardians. Um, Game 1. I watched the two games after this. I didn't actually get to watch this one. I was indisposed. But the first two games were um, ugly uh, by TSM. It didn't feel like there was life in them. It felt like they were doing things. They were trying things, but life is not necessarily. It felt like they were really grasping for straws, um, versus playing to win conditions. But I didn't get to see this one, and I am interested to see how the series started for for these two teams. Obviously, I know that Golden Guardians went 3-0, um, so they will be going further into the playoffs, where TSM will be going into the lower bracket. So, first things first, let's look at the bans. So, TSM immediately gets rid of the Olaf. Um, Obviously, it's to target closer, strong early game jungler. It can be played around and it can be beaten. But if you are scared of um, falling behind too much in the early game, or do you want to create more of an advantage for yourself in the early game, maybe that's the play for you. Getting rid of it. And then they get rid of a Kali, which is a top and mid flex. Uh, Not as strong as she used to be, obviously, but can have a lot of solo carry potential, can run away with a game. She still has a lot of that power left. She just needs more to execute on it. Then Callista was banned away, which is kind of in the same line as the Olaf, where you want to monopolize or at least reduce the potential early game power of your opponents. And then Zillion banned away, which is a target to Bjergsen specifically. Um, Nothing really much to say about that pick. I think it's not necessarily first round ban worthy, but I guess it depends on what you're trying to do. And if we look at the rest of this composition, I suppose uh, you could argue that maybe they're going for like a pick kind of option with like long range damage, a strong amount of CC. Maybe that's what you could argue, and then Zillion does kind of diminish that potential, but I don't know if that's necessarily worth getting rid of in the first round, or that TSM would pick it in the first three. Then Gangplank is dropped away. Um, it's interesting because I don't know if Gangplank is necessarily. I mean, he's a very strong pick. I think he's very underutilized in general, or has been underutilized. I think he did show up quite a bit, or has shown up a little more in these last few weeks. But he's a strong pick that doesn't really have very good counters or strong counters. Um, is always going to be reliably able to get to where he wants to be. It's a matter of amount of time it takes for him to get there. Um, Strong zone controlling champion, and I can see maybe a reason why. Maybe I mean if your plan is to pick Shen at the very end, I can see why Gangplank might be something that you don't want to see. So sure. Uh, of all the bans, honestly, so far Gangplank is probably the one that's most worthy. Even though I kind of seem to struggle to figure out why you'd ban it. Um, the only reason I really struggle to figure out why they ban it is because it's more of a general ban than it is like, and it's also not in line with the rest of what the bans are, right? So these are two early game champions, and then you're getting rid of a late game carry. So it seems a little weird. Um, and then LeBlanc, another target towards Bjergsen, has had some carry performances on it. as the primary carry of a team, so sure. Then the first pick is Caitlyn, very strong AD carry right now, basically uncounterable. She was responded with Morgana and Set. Set isn't really a response, he's just a jungler. He can be flexed into jungle, top and mid, as well as support. I think Hui actually has shown quite a bit of Set support. The Morgana is also capable of being flexed in the mid and support role. So these are actually two really interesting picks. This is actually kind of what you want to see in the first two picks of the draft. It's something that it's a draft philosophy that I think is really really strong. It's just I don't know if it's used as often as it probably can be, where you pick versatile champions that can move into different positions if you need them to. Now, Set isn't necessarily as versatile as Morgana is, because Morgana can fit into an aggressive and a defensive composition, whereas Set kind of needs to be aggressive no matter what he is. He always wants to be going in. He's not really like, oh, I'm going to stand next to somebody and then you can't walk into him. He's always wanting to go in. Um, so there is that to kind of, I guess you could question it, but I think that these two picks are in general the idea behind them being flexed between pretty much every position is uh, really really good. TSM then picked Thresh, which is by the way awful into Morgana. Uh, Thresh is not allowed to do pretty much anything that he wants to do against Morgana. Um, his single target hook, he can't do it because of the black shield. He can't really walk up to Morgana because he'll just get binded. He can't. He can maybe set up a gank better than Morgana can, and that could be a problem. But generally, he's going to lose out on every trade. He's going to not be able to aggress onto the enemy bottom lane if Morgana goes there. And when you lock in Thresh, it almost guarantees that Morgana goes support, right? Because that's just where they want to go. And the question is, if that is the case, if you're picking this champion almost certainly to make sure that this goes bottom, what are you afraid of here and here potentially? Not really here, I guess, because Morgana doesn't necessarily go top. She can, I guess, but she doesn't really. But what is the fear in the bottom lane, or I'm sorry, in the mid lane that's forcing you to pick Thresh to force Morgana down to the bottom lane? And then Azir, I don't know if maybe it's a matter of the Azir Morgana matchup that they're kind of concerned with. Um, Seems strange. I don't think it'd be that bad for Azir, but maybe I'm not familiar with the nuances of the matchup. The Azir is a very strong late game carry, and then you have the Caitlyn. You have two really strong DPSs that want to front to back. The Thresh provides a lot of safety. So this is actually a pretty decent core. This is a very, very, very strong late game. Um, and you can build very defensively from here. So from this position, you could see something like a Sedge for your jungler, Kindred if you really want them to be aggressive, I guess, if you want to have them be able to do damage, that's necessary. Um, Maybe you could argue Set would be not bad, but obviously Set's been picked. Graves isn't really a pick that I would imagine TSM would want. Uh, Echo isn't something. What are the other junglers right now? Trundle's probably not good. Lee Sin's actually awful here, and we'll get to that. Elise isn't really in the meta. Italy's not super great into this composition. Um, Especially into Morgana. Yeah, yeah, I think that you'd really want to have a defensive, more defensive oriented jungler with this core, but and they actually pick a defensive, and potentially aggressive. You could aggress with Shen, but uh, the idea behind Shen is more defensive than anything else. And if you really need something to go in on, you can, I guess, use a Thresh Hook and Shen can ult onto it. Or you can provide safety for the Azir to go in with the Shen. So those are two options with the Shen. But again, we'll get to that in a second. And then the last pick for the first round is the Ashe. Ashe Morg does probably wonders into Caitlyn and Thresh. Mostly because of this. If this is Karma, imagine this is Karma. This lane is awful for this. Like they will not pick that. They will flex this into Diamante, almost certainly. Because this is not. They can't play the game into if this is Karma. Although I guess they could still go into it, right? They could still choose to. It's not the end of the world, but they can't really do what they want to do. And it just isn't as. They won't have the same impact that they will want to have going into the later stages of the game. Okay, then Golden Guardians pick or ban Aurelia, which is targeted towards Broken Blade. It can technically be mid lane. I don't know if Aurelia is worth the ban, and it doesn't really make sense into this composition, but sure. Then they get rid of Kennen. Kennen with this core in mind. I can see the idea. You can, if you're, especially when you're getting rid of things like Zillion, where you could imagine, okay, well, we can pick people off with, or they could pick people off with Kennen. They pick Kennen here, becomes really difficult, then they get counterpick on their mid laner. Or potentially they could flex the Morgana, which apparently we were scared of because we forced Morgana into going into into the Thresh, which is good for Morgana, but maybe Morgana's bad into the Azir. I'm not sure what the logic is. Again, I don't know the nuances of that matchup, but I can't imagine it's that bad. But whatever. So the Kennen would have been pretty good for their, I guess, if they wanted to go for a pick style with the Morgana, the Set, and the Ashe. So I can see why it gets banned here. I don't know if it's necessarily worth a ban. You could still play around it. You could still pick around it. But sure. And then Graves is banned. I don't think that this is actually that good here either. You have to imagine why would they pick this into this. They already have a high amount of DPS. They don't need more damage. They want more safety. They want more front to back power. Now, Graves does provide that, but you're also not creating a frontline situation in this composition. So I don't know if Graves is necessarily the ban. Maybe it's a matter of Spica would pick it into this composition regardless of how good it is. And that is a matter of scouting and knowing the teams more than I could. But sure. Then final ban is Echo. Echo is actually pretty good into Azir, I believe. So I can see why that would be banned. This is pretty indicative of the fact that they don't think that Morgana is going into the mid lane. So interesting there. Maybe it's maybe the line of thinking is okay, we forced it into going bottom lane to combat the Thresh, and now we need to get rid of another counter to Azir. Sure. Maybe that's why Echo is banned here. Then the first of the of coming out of the bans is Ziggs. Ziggs is interesting. It's a long range control mage, or I guess it's more of a burst mage, because Ziggs is going to have a great time into Azir. Azir ordinarily likes to have the distance to do whatever he wants against his opponents, but Ziggs actually is so long that his range prevents you from doing that. It's kind of like when you set up a control mage and then you set up like Ziggs is almost like a counter to control mages because he outranges most of them. So that's actually kind of interesting. It also provides a good amount of damage and can create long range pick or champion removal. I don't know how to describe, not necessarily picking off an opponent, but getting them so low that they have to leave. Ziggs, poke champion, uh, very long range. Ashe can, I guess, poke, but it's mostly the Enchanted Crystal Arrow that we're going to be looking for. The Binding, Set can then close the gap with whatever he's got, and then Ziggs can do whatever he wants to. He can stay really far back and throw his Mega Inferno Bomb, or he can throw his abilities, depending on how close he wants to be. And given the current composition, I don't think he wants to be that close. If he's ever within like 700 range of these two, he's probably taking huge amounts of damage, so that could be an issue. Then Lee Sin comes in, and it doesn't really make sense because, with the exception of, I guess, this lane, you want to imagine that Azir should be able to be stable. You want to imagine that Caitlyn can be stable, and you should be picking a champion that is stable into almost anything that Golden Guardians can pick. And Lee Sin, being that he wants to impact the lanes as much as possible, when you have stability, you don't really want to invite instability or volatility. Lee Sin also doesn't really have a purpose after a certain point in the game. He's going to get to, I would imagine we're going to actually watch the game, and Lee Sin's going to have a moment where he's going to be standing around, pressing his mouse. He's going to right click this way several times, and then he's going to throw a Q. He's going to walk away. It's a classic Lee Sin play. You see it all the time. You see it all the time in front to back compositions because the team has to, because you want to keep the Lee Sin as a threat for your front line, or as a frontline threat, so that they can't get into Caitlyn and Bjergsen and Zir. But Lee Sin himself isn't actually getting to do anything. He doesn't really want to kick anyone into his team because that's not the direction that they really want to go. There are better defensive options in this spot. It's just it's not the best. If they really wanted the early game, they could have picked I don't know, Trundle or something. I'm like grasping at straws just to see like what they really like. What are they really trying to accomplish here with Lee Sin that they couldn't have accomplished with anything else? And I would imagine it has to be an early game impact, right? So we're going to be looking out for that. And then the Shen is picked, stable pick into pretty much anything. Into Mordekaiser is interesting because, which is the next pick. Shen is blind is a defensive option for the Caitlyn, is a defensive option for the Zir. It can allow Zir to go in more liberally. It creates some extra initiation if Thresh can hit a hook without getting black binded, or without getting black shielded. Is it called a black bind? Are all of her abilities black something? Whatever. So then the Shen is, I think, actually pretty decent in this spot. The Mordekaiser isn't. This is a matchup that I I always struggle to figure out how this actually is supposed to go. I really need to watch. I really should watch more high elo games of these two because it's such an interesting matchup that I can't really grasp my mind around without just watching it. I can't figure it out on my own. I feel as though what ends up happening is Shen gets the better of this matchup for the most part, and it may be skill based, but it feels like Shen gets the better of the matchup for the majority of the game. Maybe there's some points during the earlier stages where Mordekaiser does okay, and then eventually Shen even early on will outtrade the Mordekaiser, right? And then later on, maybe there's a point where if Mordekaiser gets a certain item break or something, he starts winning regardless. We look at this composition by TSM, and actually we will skip over to get the champions in the right spot. Okay. So we look at the composition by TSM, and we see frontline, not really frontline, front to back, frontline. So, as per usual, the jungler doesn't seem to have an actual purpose in anything other than the early game, which is an interesting philosophical question as to what the actual purpose of a jungler is supposed to be, but whatever. We'll skirt past it. It's not that big of a deal, I guess. Kind of a big deal, but we'll skirt past it anyway. And then we look at Golden Guardians. We have front to back, front to back, front to back, aggressive, and fairly aggressive. So again, we see pretty much the same basic idea that this core wants to do, I guess. Although Thresh is more of a frontline champion, or can be more of a frontline champion. Provides safety for his team though, and he can be used in the more front to back style. So it's not that big of a deal. And then we kind of have the incongruency in the top half. You see here, if you cut these teams in half, you see that these champions look very different from the champions above them. Now Shen actually does feel better than Mordekaiser in this spot, so I actually think that TSM have a nicer. I think I'd rather play TSM's composition. Not to say that this is actually that bad, but I think that's just a personal choice that I would. It's more of like a personal philosophical choice that I have. Although I still don't like the Lee Sin. But I can see where Golden Guardians want to get advantages, right? They want to be able to pick and choose who they aggress onto, get them out of fights, and then play 4v5s, and then play out the 4v5s, the ensuing 4v5s from their choices. So they find someone out, they find someone, they arrow them, they bind them, they hit them with a whole bunch of bombs, they Mordekaiser them if they need to, or he Mordekaisers potential initiation into him. So it's kind of interesting when I was actually watching this game, and it was actually one of the first times I looked at a Mordekaiser and thought, wow, he's actually really useful. Or I was watching the series, rather. And I hope I can see that. I didn't watch this game, so I hope I can see that here in this first game. Because Hanser was actually doing quite a bit on the Mordekaiser in the other games. So we'll see. Anything else? You know, the Mordekaiser can prevent initiation, so I mean, he actually can't go in. There's no one that really wants to go in, for the record, so Mordekaiser's usefulness isn't super high. Because like, anyone who's actually trying to initiate is basically just Lee Sin. Everyone else should be out of reach from the Mordekaiser, so Mordekaiser's not super valuable here. I guess he could also, he's basically just hitting these two with his ult, if he hits anyone. But it won't be necessarily early on. He'll have to walk into the fight and then finally get someone well after potentially anything is the fight's basically decided. So we'll see how Hanser plays it. I honestly don't think the set is super bad in this spot. Actually, I think that there's pretty good use for it, but yeah, I still think that TSM. I'd rather be TSM right now. I think. Maybe I would maybe I'd have a different mindset after I actually play out the games.
And we're on the roof for the first time in the summer playoffs as they'll TSM versus Golden Guardians, the 4th versus 5th seed, certainly the closest round 1 playoff match we have. And
so getting into the game, going to be doing pretty much a 5-point start. Mid laners are no longer really walking to the mid lane and dancing into the mid lane to prevent people from walking into the bushes without being seen. We're seeing this a lot more often, where the mid laners are sitting kind of around this area, just to the right of the mid lane. I don't know that's necessarily a team-specific thing, where it's like an adaptation to how each other play out level 1s, but okay.
It is just everyone fanning out, no one wanting to go for any sort of early level 1 aggression. Speaker will be starting.
What is that? There's like a dot here. What is that? It went away. What was that? What just happened? Okay, anyway. So Speak is going to be starting leashless on red. This is fine because it allows, you would hope that it allows Caitlyn Thresh to kind of maybe control the early level 1. We'll see if that actually pans out. I don't know if it will because this feels like it would be the Ashe Morgana seems like it'd be pretty oppressive.
I think that Golden Guardians are
Um,
heavily advantaged in this 2v2. FBI has been a great laner. I think that
see how
Golden
things
Guardians
go.
also deserved by somebody who has
Uhi opting for the
I do think it's very
Bell
easy
Thieves.
to get the push here with Ashe and Morgana. You drop the puddle
It's
on all 6 minions.
probably because he can get consistent pools off without really caring for
lethal tempo off of a volley and then have the
any reprisal by treats. So this is fine. Going to kill these minions, and then level 2, they actually have the level 2 first, so even though they go leashless, I mean, FBI and Huhi also went leashless, so they weren't really able to get an advantage from there. They both start on the red, and pretty much they're doing the exact same. They're just mirroring each other right now. Ashe spots out the jungler. I mean, this is actually one of the more broken aspects of Ashe. Knowing the exact jungle pathing is really, really good. Ziggs is getting the poorer end of these trades. Closer ends up being able to do the Raptors because he is slightly faster, and because they caught out Spica. They know exactly. They were able to see every camp, so they knew exactly where he was. Closer could have maybe gotten one or two more autos, but it's not really the end of the world. It looks like they might be aggressing onto each other. It's fairly rare that junglers knowingly walk into each other, but we'll see how that actually ends up going. It looks like, yeah, it looks like Closer just ends up getting the crab for free too. Yep, nothing really lost on that. And then we see Shen pushing in the lane, something that falls in line with what I've seen before and what I've thought.
It's so unlikely for you to be able to win a scrap around that bottom scuttle, and this has just put himself behind a couple seconds, honestly.
Spica though instead gonna take the left crab as you recommended, maybe just a little later than he would have liked. Top lane is going
I don't necessarily like the voices to be overpowering, but if I'm gonna, I do enjoy listening to them because there is some insight you can always gather, even if it's not necessarily, the casters aren't necessarily trying to give super deep insight into the games. There's always value in what they can say.
Because one of the things that is nice with the parry zone from Shen is, you need the multiple successive hits from Mordekaiser to actually proc the passive, right? So if you can actually deny those, they're going to go for the top flash, and they got it!
Flash taunt kick, first blood.
Pretty good. Wait.
That goes to Broken Blade.
Oh, okay. That's really, really good.
It's not enough for the he's going to try and do just that with the distance, but Broken Blade and Spica are already way too far away.
And the
Let me just
even pushing away from
let me just look at this for a second. So
TSM,
so Spica ends up going through the top side. He gets the top side's crab. Okay, because Closer kind of had to move downward from the scuttle crab and then moved up.
If you're able to get good clean trades.
So Spica ends up getting to the crab first, and then he's pretty free.
From Shen is, you need the multiple successive hits from Mordekaiser to actually proc the passive, right? So if you can actually deny those, they're going to go for the top flash, and they got it!
I think this is actually just really good. It's just actually well played. There might be a point where you could argue that maybe Hanser did something wrong here, but I don't know.
So good for TSM. That is absolutely perfect. And this was actually the third straight taunt. He hit 2 in a row. We already saw that last.
The flash taunt was, I mean, it's just, I don't know if it's even counterable.
Notice how Spica knows Broken Blade would take him out, so he's gonna.
I mean, the window's really, really tight
why there was the delay
for that exact play to happen.
Broken Blade will be able to
Spica just being in the right place at the right time.
Juicy wave here has the preferential buy.
I mean, he chose to be there, but
refillable and a ruby
I don't want to make it seem like I think he just like lucked into the Mordekaiser kill. But
and the first blood, so the lane is going to be looking really nice for him.
Maybe Closer might have been a little behind the play or something. It's hard to exactly know what was happening.
But here is the
Okay, Spica's a little out of place here. Should be fine.
That binding almost hit Spica, but he's just going to be able to get out of there. Good presence of mind from Golden Guardians to not freak out in the bottom lane, seeing Spica first. They knew Closer was there. No need to
So neither junglers really
other than continue pushing the lane and
pass
farming
each other in
upward,
terms of
as
power.
sitting at about a wave LCS right
Closer
now.
ends up
Double is
opting for the
gonna be
Bomb
forced to
Cinder instead
stay
of the
to collect this wave, so he doesn't
jungle
fall too far
item,
behind, but
Yeah.
as you mentioned, that
where
top
it's
lane is
fine,
already
gives
opening
him
up
more
for TSM. In fact,
stats.
Broken Blade has level 6 right now, so potentially if they do want to contest
And
it, strength, although I
Ziggs
don't think
and
they
the
will,
bottom lane
Broken Blade
have
can
priority,
take the
so
first
this
wave
dragon is pretty much theirs.
You definitely
Don't
can.
really
It's
want
it'll be
to, or
hard to
TSM
figure
doesn't really
that
want
or
to
go anything
aggress
towards
onto them
something like
after.
that. But right now, I don't think it's worth them trying to contest, and your bottom lane is pretty locked in there. Doublelift is going to take the recall now.
I mean,
This is
this
gonna mean
bottom
he will
lane
lose a
is,
full wave,
it's actually not
but he doesn't really
terrible.
have
He's
any
gonna,
choice, right?
wait,
He's getting poked out, and he's just trying to
oh,
make the call on
wait,
when it's
what was
best.
the recall? I guess he was he's pretty low.
But
He has him backed.
I
He ends
don't
up,
think it's
I
worth
mean,
them trying to
you know,
contest.
when your AD carry goes
Locked in there.
Doran
Doublelift
shield,
is
you
gonna
know
take
that the
the recall
matchup's
now.
not great.
This is going to mean he will lose a full wave, but he doesn't really have any choice, right? He's getting poked out, and he's just trying to make the call on when it's best to actually base. You know, this lane, as I said, very heavily favored towards Golden Guardians.
I mean,
You know, they
they're
also went
chunking
with
out
Comet, which is kind of
plates.
indexing
It just
towards
feels
the
really
laning phase
bad.
there, who you can have the
They
additional
know this
creep
isn't a
that
good
they got
matchup.
a couple patches ago now on
They've
Summer,
opted
using
into
Comet
this.
for that guaranteed
So
kill.
I don't know if
But
there was,
Doublelift not that far behind, so this was a pretty
maybe
good
they were
base
hoping
time, and
for
honestly,
just a
you know,
better
kudos to both
overall
of them. He gets his BF, he's down 8
play, or I
CS,
don't know. I'm not sure
that's
what the logic
okay.
is.
And now because he actually
By
found his
TSM's
timing,
bottom lane.
he's not
Okay,
using
so
plates
Bjergsen
on
actually
base
ends up
because
having
FBI
the
hadn't
ability
actually
to
gone
move
back to
around
base
the
yet,
jungle.
so,
Closer cannot
FBI
enter
kind of
his red
missed
side.
a window
This
to
is
really punish with his
pretty good
import,
aggressive play. It
because
allows
they didn't actually
Spica to
find
take
a
the
wave to actually
red
push
buff
out earlier and take
without
you back
really
immediately
any
to try to punish
issue.
the plates. They didn't get
Haunter
much out of the top
may
lane
have
fight,
to
so
be
I
a
gotta give him a lot of
little.
credit.
He doesn't seem to
TSM's
be any
bottom
wary
lane,
at
though,
all.
for
Obviously,
navigating this, only
Bjergsen
being
went back
down
into the
to
lane,
about one
but it
wave
seemed like he was
with
kind of
the
bouncing
core
around
expended,
here
and they only
in
lost
case
one
Bjergsen
plate.
walked in.
I think they should
He
be
didn't,
really,
so
really
he
happy
goes
with how
back
they
forward.
performed. I think this is a
Okay,
really
the
strong
bottom
laning
laners are
performance
kind of
here
alone
for
here,
Doublelift
and this is really precarious.
kind of knows, even in a bad matchup, somebody just
Really
this is a little too far
dangerous.
forward, though.
Okay.
Binding is not going to hit. FBI had the arrow ready though, so Doublelift certainly has to be careful with treats on the
By the way, hold on. Is he dead?
a really strong laning performance here from Doublelift and Treats.
Yeah, Doublelift kind of knows.
When does he get
Bad
6?
matchup, somebody just to give it up. This is a little too far forward.
I think he's dead. I'm pretty sure if they were able to communicate that I'm gonna get 6 on this one minion dying, the play is for Huhi to flash right on top of Doublelift, making the binding either. Well, I guess he has the cleanse too. I briefly forgot about cleanse. And I don't think Huhi's flash is worth. Is Huhi's flash worth Doublelift's flash? It might be. Because what's going to end up happening in that play that I fantasized, that I just made up, is Huhi will flash right on top of Doublelift, or very close to Doublelift, making the binding basically impossible to miss. Doublelift may wait for the arrow to hit. He may immediately, if he sees that that FBI is level 5 still, he may think, okay, I don't need to cleanse this. And then he'll hold the, I think he always holds the cleanse for the enchanted crystal arrow anyway. But maybe it's not. Maybe he's not dead. But there's also the ignite that goes on top. And Thresh is really far away. No, FBI would have to flash too for the. No. That's fine.
Although binding is not going to hit. FBI had
If the
arrow
binding
ready though,
hits,
so Doublelift
that's
certainly has to be
a
careful with
cleanse and
treats
maybe
on
a
the run
flash.
towards mid.
But
Also,
I don't think
just
Huhi needs
deal with
to
the red buff,
flash
which
for that. It's
is kind
fine.
of an extension of the advantage that Broken Blade is building now in top lane.
I think we would have seen Huhi flash for that if they knew where Treats was. But you know, if Treats is right
I
behind
mean,
him,
Isael's also
obviously
mentioning
that's
the
not gonna work out. You can just
that
cleanse lane.
Huhi might have been able to
But,
flash.
we've seen Huhi make a lot
I
of
don't know if
decisions
that's
like that.
necessarily the
He's
best
very
play.
willing to trade flash for flash to try to look aggressive here.
Even though I
Have
thought of it,
Bjergsen
and then
pushed
I
in on
don't
the
think it's the
push
best play.
on the top, so it's an easy win-bait for that blue buff.
It might have
Well
been the
done
best
by
play.
Golden Guardians trying to take away resources where they can. And Ziggs with blue buff, is so annoying to lane against because this guy is just going to spam out spells constantly, and if they can
Okay,
actually
so
lane that second
while on the other side of the map, Golden Guardians were able to aggress onto the blue side and take blue buff, which is pretty bad, and then Bjergsen doesn't get blue buff, so he's sad, and Ziggs can just perma-shove the wave without any care in the world.
Then they just skipped Lost Chapter entirely and went towards, like Double Dorans or Darkseal or something. And
now the early game wasn't super great for Damonte, but now it's gotten back up to where he's going to be really, really fine.
Yeah, kind of knows that, this lane is doing exactly what we've seen on screen, which is just farming back and forth. Although blue buff for Damonte is going to help in that department. Bottom lane, though, Speaker is here once again. Closer is on this side of the map.
I'm not entirely sure how this happened. Wait a minute. Okay. Sure. Interesting. Okay.
Towards the laning than something like Lethal Tempo, but he's rushing straight towards Nashers to be ready for the team fight.
So basically, Closer was kind of not really doing much for a bit. He had to back too, so he went for a recall as well. So during that time, Speaker was able to claim a lot of farm.
FBI is still up about 12 CS.
So while they lose the blue buff, and Speaker still, by the way, hasn't really gone to his blue side to clear these camps for some reason, opting to dance around the river and then turn around and go to Raptors instead of turning around going to do Gromp and then Wolves and then Raptors. So he actually could have had a bigger lead potentially, because he doesn't really need to. I don't think he ever actually ends up getting anything on the bottom side gank, and he always loses this crab anyway, right?
He doesn't play cleanse, so if you get caught by an
so his play already makes him lose the crab. So I just efficiently clear the camps play seems like it's marginally better at least, because he loses the same amount of things on the other side of the map, but he just gets a 2-camp lead that he didn't have before, and then Closer just ends up coming back because he efficiently farmed his camps.
Well, this is curious because Golden Guardians have actually moved their bottom lane to the top half of the map. I'm almost surprised this didn't happen earlier because Herald is already so valuable.
Speaker's actually pretty strong here with the Warriors. I don't know if they can really do this because of the lack of Cinderhulk on Closer. They're gaining, Doublelift is getting a good advantage here in the bottom lane. This actually feels pretty good, and then FBI is here, so no real play. I don't know if there's a way.
Doublelift actually did stay bottom lane, so FBI was forced to run back down there. Otherwise, he would have been losing plates and actually falling behind him.
I don't think there's a way for TSM to ever gain priority on that Rift Herald because of the matchups in the mid and top side. This might be very greedy. This feels really greedy.
But there's an arrow coming cross map here. We'll see if it connects with anyone.
Ooh, close hookshot though does reveal, so they do have vision here, but the objective I don't think is close enough for Closer to
they didn't want to go for it.
Will smite that away, and
that's fine.
Rough stuff to lose that first Herald. Very valuable for what Golden Guardians wanted to do.
At the same time, by the way, I thought that Mordekaiser would be able to maintain the priority, but he ends up not really. So like right. Oh no, I guess it's even. I thought Mordekaiser was pushing Shen in at this point.
And
okay.
They were trying to actually match the Roman.
I actually just misread these two positions, the two positions on the top side.
Bottom lane, so FBI was forced to run back down there. Otherwise, he would have been losing plates and actually falling behind him farm. So it will be TSM, I think, that kind of gets the best of that little move. A little bit of free farming time there for Doublelift, and now because they see FBI down on that bottom
so
side,
Shen is actually at this point, he might be aggressively trading or trying to aggressively push the lane.
Ooh, close hookshot though does reveal, so they do have vision here, but the objective I don't think is close.
And because he's kind of on the inside of this area, he's kind of like right here, dancing around. He can get into the play first without having to do anything, or without having to use his abilities.
Yeah, well done here by TSM to be able to grab that Herald for themselves. FBI is extending the farm lead, so has done well with that. When we checked in at that TP time,
I mean
wave, it is extending.
This is interesting actually, because at this point,
actually misread.
So he pushes
So
in
I
this
think that they
wave,
saw,
right?
you know, treats up there, and they assumed Doublelift was
They
going to
really
be there
feel.
too, and that they were
Is it
trying to
really
actually
that big of
match
a
the
divide
round and
between
contest,
the
not
two
necessarily go
ED
for it
carries right now?
themselves. In this case, Doublelift
Because
actually
what
did
is
stay
Doublelift
bottom lane,
doing?
so FBI was forced to run
Watch
back
Doublelift.
down there.
What?
Otherwise, he would have been losing.
Okay,
Fights
so
and his
he's
farm
here, and then
farm,
he's
so,
he's
definitely
here on the
TSM
minimap.
that kinda gets
He
the
trails
best out of
back,
that little move, a little
goes
bit of
around,
time there for Doublelift, and now
going to
because they see
Raptors.
FBI down on that bottom side, Doublelift
Doesn't do
they're
Raptors.
starting this up, but there's an arrow
Goes
coming
to
across
red.
mid. We'll see if it connects with anyone.
Doesn't
Ooh,
do
nice
red.
shot,
Dances
but
around
doesn't work, so
again.
they do have vision here, but the objective, I
Moving up
don't
to the
think
mid lane.
is
Ah!
close enough for Closer to try
What
and
is he
set it
doing
up.
this whole
They snipe
time?
that away, and rough stuff to lose
Is
that
it really
first
that
round.
bad?
Very
Like he can't even sit around for
but
experience
instead
and
it goes
gold
into the hands of
in
TSM.
the bottom lane?
Yeah, well done here.
What is he
by
doing?
TSM to be able to grab that herald for themselves.
I
FBI is
get it.
extending
The
farm
play
lane, so,
was
you know, has done well with
was
that.
happening
We checked in,
on the
at
Rift,
that
but
TP
just
time,
take
it was a little
the
bit over a wave. It is extending
just
from there.
accept the
Doublelift will have some
4v5.
farm to actually pick up here. But Golden
You
Guardians
accept it when
potentially
you
gonna
make
be
the
snapping
play.
up this
When
dragon,
you
looking
accept when
towards
you
that.
go for
I
it, when
think
Speak
that
is already
this
hitting the Rift Herald, you accept that you're not gonna have your Caitlyn with you. Just accept it.
What would be an eventual soul.
Don't like try to have your Caitlyn at there too, and then Caitlyn ends up losing out on farm and on potential experience and farm
They want to try to contest.
because you want to
Too slow, probably.
maybe contest and that's actually a really good smite.
Steals it.
That's actually really good.
They're gonna try and win the team fight on the end of it. Treats
Broken Blade ends up missing the flash due to the double flash, but they still get a kill on FBI, so this is actually really good. This ends up becoming really good for TSM.
They're gonna get the tower as well. That is massive for TSM.
I don't know about that spawning it and then walking to the
Golden
dragon though.
Right out of the
That
water here.
doesn't seem necessary
Should be
because
able
I
to
don't know if
all
they get
5
this
plates off
tower.
of
They
that.
might
They
still
got
get
the
it, but
smite steal, they got
it ends up slowing it down
I didn't
significantly.
think that Bjergsen was going to be able to arrive in time to really have an impact on that fight as he was TPing down to the bottom lane and the dragon was already fairly
Maybe they're
low,
using
but
the logic.
when Spica lands
Maybe they're
that
using
smite,
an
Broken
extremely
Blade
advanced
coming through
logic.
with the Stand United,
Nobody ends up getting that last plate either, by the way.
him.
Or at least that I can tell.
This game with the Shen catching FBI, who was an easy kill after that.
Maybe they're using the logic that they don't want to give the long lane to anyone on Golden Guardians so that they can then potentially freeze it, removing a farming lane from TSM. I don't think they're actually thinking that. I think they just spawned the Herald and maybe they screwed up or something.
Also nice for Broken Blade just to back up between his two towers because doesn't want to get put in the shadow realm when he's trying
Maybe
to
Spiga spawned it because he needed his ward to be able to make a play potentially.
In the lane for Broken Blade in that team fight, and just good awareness to like not do the
I think he had
dumping
it right. Let me just go back. I don't know why I'm centering on this play. Yes, that's what he did.
Snowball towards what would be an eventual soul. Either it will be Cloud or Ocean. Ocean obviously is kind of that Doomsday one that people are most worried about.
I think it was just a really poor use of the.
They want to try to contest. I just think that they're too slow, probably.
Yeah, Rifter popped as well. Dragon goes. Oh, the smite steals it.
I mean, the steal is really good. Obviously, it was pretty close to a 50-50. FBI ends up going down.
Way too late to this one, buddy. As TSM get the fight win.
They're gonna get the tower as well.
There's definitely a case to be made that they shouldn't probably do that. It works. So obviously that case loses some flavor. I just think that
really have an impact on that fight as he was TPing down to the bottom lane and the dragon was already fairly low. But when Spica lands that smite, Broken Blade coming through with the Stand United, another taunt flash landed from him. He has been on point this game with the Shen, catching FBI, who was an easy kill after that. Haunter at least does get down here.
Okay.
Tower, so it doesn't
now, by the way, the Rift Herald would have been really good here because you cannot break Ziggs' tower ever as long as Ziggs is sitting at that tower. Anytime, whatever tower Ziggs is sitting on is basically not touchable unless you dive the Ziggs. And they don't have a dive composition, really. I guess they could with like Lee Sin and Thresh and Azir if they really aggress onto that Ziggs, but it seems like a little unnecessary. The Rift Herald being used on mid would have potentially allowed them to claim it by also making that play. So they make the play and then they spawn the Herald so that they can crack the tower quickly. Or they spawn the Herald and then make the play so they can crack the mid tower. But as of right now, I don't know if that mid tower is ever dying without that second Rift Herald spawning.
map, but if you play it too slowly, if you're always
Or being used by
doing it
TSM, I guess.
defensively or reactively, you might
Um.
not get an edge from that extra global. You might be doing
Okay,
it
so
too
then the
slow,
bottom
so
laners
it
switched to
always
the
has this
top
complicated
lane.
match. So
Top
we wanna
laners are
see
in the bottom
TSM
lane
continue to be
now.
proactive here. They are having match teleports right now.
Shen
so
is
as
actually
soon
claiming
as,
the
that Team
Krugs.
United is up, TSM will have priority.
Does somebody have Zombie Ward?
Herald is up
Or not Zombie Ward, it's the Ghost Poro. Oh no, it's his sword. I'm so dumb. Oh look, it's the play that I was talking about. Oh hey, it's the play that I specifically said requires those 3 people to do it. Okay, well, it ended up doing it. They ended up doing it. Alright, cool. That would have been a great time for that Herald, wouldn't it? Oh, that would have been a good time for that Herald. Oh, that would have been nice for that Herald, huh?
No flashes coming through, ace in the hole, sliding in.
Like, I get it, they made the play after the Herald,
Grabbing an easy kill on the
after
Zeds,
the
and
plates are dead,
TSM
but
is looking so clean in the early minutes here, navigating, you know, all of these potential pitfalls very, very well, laning incredibly well in that 2v2.
I wonder how much damage Azir can put down on that tower.
Broken Blade has been so
Probably not
in this
enough
game,
before he gets
Bjergsen's winning his matchup. He's
forced
in the
out,
comfort
but
zone now with the Nashers completed.
maybe not even
TSM
half.
really has everything going their
Just
way.
barely
If
half.
you look at their 3 lanes, they have or had farm deficits in all 3 of them. As Speaker going for the solo kill here, close to the haymaker. That's a step too far, but Speaker still alive for now. They're looking for it, but no ulti to try and find the snipe, so Speaker gonna walk out safely.
But look at the level advantage. This Lee Sin is 2 levels up right now. I'm certain Closer has to be close to 8, so he'll probably, you know, be only.
So there's Closer reaching level
That's
8 on the
still pretty
Raptors.
significant.
I mean,
the Lee Sin.
this is
You know, Speaker
Zale was
having a
touching on
solid
the
game so far, and
jungle
he has been
matchup.
receiving some
I mean,
decent
Lee Sin's
supportive
had
smites, you know, that I think
opportunities
his
to
play
actually
around
even be
dragons
further
sometimes
ahead,
is where
potentially.
maybe nerves are getting
So-
the best of him. You know, we have seen a couple weeks back where he used his smite on an enemy champion. They didn't have it for the dragon. You know, we've seen
It's
him get
possible it could have been even worse,
sometimes, like in
honestly.
that TL game, but here
Because
he
Closer
comes
has
out
been kind of...
already landing the smite steal against Closer.
Is it necessarily his
Has been
fault?
Looking very, very good on the Lee Sin in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, this nice and clean
I'd have to take a
game.
really, really
This
close
one
look into
is
just
gonna get
Closer
yet another blue buff. Have not seen the Ziggs
to
level
determine if it was
start
really
to
his
siege,
fault that he was
unfortunately.
behind.
Level 11 now though, so charging up on passive.
Because there were some occasions where it looked like he was just kind of fumbling around.
Killed again because Bjergsen shuffles look so good, but his flash
Or
is
that
back up, and
he
Golden Guardian started
he
to
lost
move
out
back
because of
into
his
center
because of the
because it is
opposing.
time to play for this
I guess
first
TSM was
Ocean
able
Dragon in
to
30 seconds.
aggress onto his jungle.
Looks like TSM are going to be able to grab this bottom tower potentially. They don't know where everyone is, so they are just going to move over into the river.
Also, of course,
down.
Spica is higher level because of the kills that the kill experience that he's gotten, and the dragon experience.
Trying to shove here. TSM has to respond to this before moving to the dragon. Otherwise, they will just lose their.
Which isn't
so
that significant, but it does
against that
count.
composition that has. So by getting that push, they've actually now shoved TSM out
Oh
of
no, I
the
guess
river.
it would be
Broken Blade is gonna
decently
stay top
significant because it
to get
was
power damage down.
it was
He does
a
have to
like
stay
level
united,
6 or
so
so
TSM can't
dragon.
look to slow play this, and because they stole the last dragon, it's honestly not the end of the world if they do give up
Okay.
one.
So
dragon.
they're not really
Not
they
put them at
it
some
looked like they
point,
might
and
be
for now, it looks like they're
teasing
trying
it.
to
This
push
is a
all three
little
lanes,
precarious.
and
I don't
think
know
they're
about
just
this.
gonna have Spica try to steal instead of committing to the fight.
Yeah, thankfully they wait for the Q to wear off, so Lee Sin can't jump in, and Haunter's going to go ahead and get the last hit on the dragon to give Golden Guardian the first lead in that objective. Like you said, though, it does come at a cost. Broken Blade is smashing down the top lane tower. The bottom lane tower is extremely low, and Double Lift is, in fact, going to finish it off. So, despite the Drake's looking good, despite Golden Guardians having
So
a
let me
good
just
plan,
highlight. Is that the first tower, or was that the first tower? Yeah, I think it was.
Broken Blade is going to stay top and look to get tower damage down.
So they end up
He does
getting
have
the
standing
top
fights,
tower,
so
and first
slow
tower
play this,
gold
and because
for
they stole the last dragon, it's
for
honestly
them
not the end of the
on the
world
top
if
side,
do
and they
give
actually
up
end up
one
getting
dragon
bottom
here.
side
This
too
would not put them at soul
by.
and for now, it looks like
I'm
they're
not
just gonna
entirely
push
sure.
all 3 lanes,
Oh,
and I think
got
they're
it.
just going to have Spica try to steal instead of committing to the fight.
yeah, thankfully they wait for the Q to wear off, so Lee Sin can't jump in, and Haunter's going to go ahead and get the last hit.
How
on
low
the
is this?
dragon
Oh, it's
to give
like
Golden
2
Guardian
shots away.
the first lead in
It's
that
very
objective.
easy to
Like
die.
you said, though, it does come at a cost.
Phelan just
Broken Blade,
hits it once and then
smashing down
dead,
the top
pretty
lane
much,
tower, the bottom lane
by
tower
pushing
is
the wave in.
extremely
Yeah,
low,
there
and
it is.
Double Lift is, in fact, going to finish it off. So, despite the Drake's looking good, despite Golden Guardians having a good
There might be a world where
It is all
Golden
TSM.
Guardians can aggress onto
Again, they've
Caitlyn
had
down there,
deficits
but I
in
don't.
all 3 of their lanes at some point, and it just doesn't seem
I
to
think that
matter
they made the
right
right
now.
choice.
And I think it's so interesting because this just demonstrates how game-changing a smite steal could be. Because I can guarantee you that TSM wouldn't be giving that up if Closer was the one who actually smited the previous time.
Zayla's
Because
touching on
you're
that
not
smite steal.
willing
I
to
think
put
that
someone at
he's
soul
making a really
one
good point.
this early
Stealing,
on in the game
making
because
sure that
of
your
one
opposing team
building
doesn't have
being used use
soul point on
better
third dragon
higher
is
bonus
really,
essentially
really,
because of that
really
smite steal
valuable.
from Spica. TSM aren't forced to actually challenge in what would have been potentially a losing
There's
position
so
on
much
that dragon,
value in it.
because they had actually lost
Um,
control over mid lane. It was Golden Guardians who were the ones who were over
so
there
they're
first.
actually
And if
able
they
to
had
kind
been
of
forced to funnel
get
in, they could
things
have
out
actually
of
died
the
with
map
that dragon
instead
and
of
lost
having
it
to fight
anyway.
for that
Instead, because
dragon.
of one smite steal, they actually get to take
And
two
oh, I think
towers.
we
They
paused.
get to circumvent even fighting
paused?
for
Yeah,
that
paused.
dragon, and it just shows how big of a difference these little plays can really have in the entire game.
Lions, why the VOD is so long.
50 minutes.
You know, just count on double a way that they
I
have
just
won so many
don't want
championships.
to miss a
You know, with
second of the action.
right? You know,
Alright.
just count on Doublelift, count on Bjergsen to be able to team fight incredibly well. That is a pretty damn reliable strategy.
Yes,
let's be
and
honest.
I think, playoff experience is a huge
Oh.
part about how
Case your
this
time
as you said,
is
Golden
very,
Guardians
very
have
low
never
in
lost
the
a best of 5 in playoffs, so
cast. I don't know if
very
that's
impressive Doublelift that was like he hasn't lost a best of 5 in
basically
4
only in my
years,
left
which is
ear.
quite a long time for a player
In any case.
literally every split of the LCS and almost every playoff.
Also, there are no pictures here.
Miss you, but I mean, yes, with the experience that TSM have, I think it's just, and the mode that this game is currently in,
Okay.
it just feels like this is a team that, at least for the first,
We're just gonna mute that until that's fixed. Until I see some cameras down here, I'm not gonna. We're just gonna rock out without any sound. So, TSM honestly in a pretty good spot. This is really, really good. They don't necessarily auto win by scaling, but I think they're very comfortable to scale, and they have a comfortable lead at this point. That should kill this tower. So, all right. So now every tier 1 is now dead for Golden Guardians. This does allow some holding waves to happen, but I don't know if that's necessarily something that Golden Guardians are willing to do. Bjergsen's actually pretty shoved up here. It looks like he's pretty freely able to do that. Because they knew where the majority of the players were, so he's pretty fine. And backs off at the right time. Nothing too crazy. 1 minute 40 to the dragon, which is going to be the real point in the game where I think something has to happen. Because I know that Golden Guardians win this game. I don't know how. Because this current position is very, very good for TSM. They haven't really made super egregious choices. I think that the double lift waffling around for a bit was unnecessary, but it doesn't really end up hurting him too much, I guess. I think Spica might have been able to even make the gap between him and Closer way bigger, because he didn't really. Oh, okay. So they hit the one target that has a cleanse, which is really, really good for TSM. If that arrow hits Bjergsen, that's very, very dangerous. So Bjergsen should probably be the regular target for the arrow. Or I guess now that Caitlyn's cleanse is down, she can become a target because her cleanse will not be up by the time the next arrow can fire. So this is going to be an interesting dragon.
Mid lane and did actually not have the opportunity.
We're gonna pause again before the
Just
dragon.
jumping out. I think that is actually dragon is up. We can see Shen.
Okay.
Has
Oh,
moved
the
down.
cameras are
This
back.
is now post chrono break.
Okay, so here is the. There was a chrono break. What? Whoa, wait. Anyway, what needed to be chrono breaked or broke? I guess. Well, I guess I'll never know because I didn't listen to the cast. It's fine. So you have the Caitlyn line. They can't really walk up. Now, importantly, neither team really wants to walk up. Hanser probably should be walking around, looking for a flank on this side, although you cannot see where they are. this ward can help. The blue trinket can be used around on this bush or this bush, so that they can actually see what's going on. But the entire way here is pretty free for Hanser. Hanser, I feel like, shouldn't even show up here. Should probably be trying to wrap around. Demonte is able to poke out from a pretty good distance, so that might be pretty dangerous there. Free's position is interesting too, because I wonder if maybe he can be. I think he's fine actually, because he can act as a front line for his two carries right here, and assuming that Shen is back here actually pushing the wave mid. I don't know where Lee Sin is. Where is Lee Sin? He's somewhere. He's probably somewhere in this fog of war. Actually, Treats' lantern is gonna get no value. Never mind. I was trying to rationalize him positioning for the oh, there he is. He's actually in the bush.
We'll see if it's gonna come down to the smite.
Oh, Closer actually getting in there. The Dragon's open. Who gets it? It is FBI with a steal. And now Haun's in the backline, but Closer's low.
Okay, they should feel pretty good. Pika's actually trapped in the death realm. He can't really do anything. Haunter is like solo fighting the entire opposing team. Who just died? Why did Doublelift die? What was going on? Oh, right, he hold on. Okay, let's look at this. Right, so FBI steals it. Speaker's in the death realm. Speaker. Pika is in the death realm because that's what ends up happening. That's why FBI was able to get it. Okay. Okay, Hanser is able to kill Doublelift.
And it's an absolute mess, but Golden Guardians, they get out with the Drake, they get a couple kills, and that was chaotic as we get ourselves back into the game for realsies.
And that should be their third dragon. So the graphic hasn't actually updated yet, at the top, but that should be Golden Guardians' third dragon now. So putting them at soul point, neither jungler used their smite on that. The fight had actually broken out, and there was FBI who did take that down. And I've got to say, I think that Broken Blade really actually misplayed. When he was coming in on that flank, I thought
that Mordekaiser has so much value right now.
Maybe he was worried about it
because he's basically just in the face. He's in all of their faces, and there's no one that apparently can stop him from being in their face.
Felt like a situation where potentially you could get a multi-man taunt, kill off those.
You'd think that he, being mostly melee, wouldn't be able to just walk into them.
Look for the engage here, flying on in. Spica just wasn't actually back in time. He had the Q on the dragon there. He did get ulted. I'm not sure. I guess he didn't want to take the Q in because he was worried about getting in range of Haunter, so that is why he wasn't able to actually land that smite. So well played there by Haunter. And then this is that flank. As we know, Closer did look for the engage here, flying on in. Against that, he did get a multi-man taunt, kill off those people, and then punish with a Baron take here. So let's watch this one more time.
Okay. These should be around Hanser. He should not be allowed to walk in, especially with pretty much full health. If he walks in, he has to be chunked. Obviously, I understand the logic. Closer's the one with the smite. This is the bigger issue. But Hanser is probably a bigger threat and someone that Bjergsen should be working. Obviously, we're here. Should be working to make sure he can't really get in freely. I mean, he basically got hit with maybe an auto from double, a headshot auto, right?
As we know, Closer did those people and then punished with a Baron take here. So let's watch this one more time.
Oh.
As we know, Closer
wasn't in range.
Here, Spica
Closer ends up flashing right onto these two. Who did he flash onto?
Wasn't. We know Closer did look for the engage here.
Flash onto two people. It was Bjergsen and Treats. Yeah.
Spica just wasn't actually back in time. He had the Q on the dragon there. He did get ulted. I'm not sure. I guess he didn't want to take the Q in because he was worried about getting in range of Haunter. So that is why he wasn't able to.
Broken Blade actually misses the taunt, which is unfortunate.
Broken Blade, I did feel like there was an opportunity to go for a taunt range of Haunter, is why he wasn't able to actually land that smite. So well played there by Haunter. And then this is that flank I was talking about from Broken Blade. I did feel like there was an opportunity to go for a taunt on that 3-man clump right there. I guess he didn't want to take the Q in because he was worried about getting in range of Haunter.
Yeah, he went for the kill instead of going. Yeah, I think that what Broken Blade needs to do, instead of trying to go for a kill here, I think he might need to just immediately ult onto a low health target here. That's relatively close to a person who's basically killing your entire team, and get him as far away from the carry as possible. Because if he ults doublelift before he walks in here and then gets CC'd, so he can't actually ult anyone, as doublelift dies, doublelift doesn't die. And they get out. Obviously, they lose the dragon.
Is why he wasn't able to actually land that smite. So well played there by Haunter. And then this is that flank I was talking about from Broken Blade. I did feel like there was an opportunity to go for a taunt on that 3-man clump right there.
I don't know. I mean, I think the Stand United was actually poorly used at the end anyway.
You could
But
potentially punish with a
not that big of a deal.
Instead, they're not able to get that. They do go +1 as far as the kills are concerned. But the fact that Golden Guardians is now at sole point is incredibly concerning.
It'll be up before anything
As you mentioned, it is
major should happen.
Golden Guardian, so that is Ocean's sole point for this side. 24 minutes in, the first Baron is going to be started up by TSM. And Golden Guardian's not
TSM, I mean, they're just, it's almost not possible for anyone to sneak anything from an Ashe. So them trying to go for that Baron is really
exactly. They were kind
not
of
what they
saying,
probably should be doing.
Any opportunity to grab this, can we get something here for free? Obviously, when we get spotted, you should back it up. You can see Merc treads across the board here for TSM, as there is some very good hard CC here with the Ashe Arrow and the Morgana Binding. Those are obviously things that are going to force out those Merc treads pretty heavily. 4 of them have already been built up. Mikael's is now there for treats. That is actually a really big buy because that is going to keep some of these other members safe who do not have the QSS. And, honestly, Spica
2 minutes until the next
QSS,
fight.
Because if
What is... I don't know if TSM have any
for those
way of getting anywhere else. I think they just have to play the fights. What is this? Oh, he's getting ulted.
But that is the Mord ulti used onto Spica, so Broken Blade cannot see him, and the rest of Golden Guardians is coming in here. It will have to be their retreat, so it is just the trade of ultimates there. But I would say that goes in the favor of Golden Guardians, as that
I don't understand what that was.
Traded out for the time of 2 people, and he does stay safe.
That is a really interesting interaction.
I can't imagine that if you review that, they're like, yeah, that was the best play that we could have made at that exact moment.
How that worked out. So at least we have one.
So maybe he was just looking for something to do. Not entirely sure.
The answer is you cannot enter the Shadow Realm. It is a 1v1 only.
You have to imagine that you're going to get ulted, right?
To keep himself safe, and as you said, it's kind of a trade of cooldowns for the time of 2 players. So I would say kind of a wash at the end of it all. Team's really just setting up for these next objectives.
Exactly, and Broken Blade
is Stand United worth
of that Ultimate Hunter.
Death Realm?
Up to 3 stacks now. The cooldown isn't as bad as it would otherwise be, so that trade is looking more even as far as those cooldowns are concerned.
Maybe it is. Maybe the play is actually not bad.
Sword build that Freak loves. He's a big advocate of this. It is a higher.
I think it's obvious that they're not going to get anything from it, but maybe the end result, trading those 2, isn't terrible, and then they're still trying to go for this guy. They're doing so much.
Oh, gets the Black Shield down. The arrow actually hits under the chin. The grab though is gonna find.
Okay, they know Death Realm is not available. They're kind of in a tight corridor, which does benefit Ashe and, or sorry, well, it actually does benefit Ashe. It actually benefits pretty much the 4 carries across the board, so probably don't really want to be in tight corridors. Either team really wants to do that. Unless they have a big advantage. It's actually really, really good. Wait, that was so clean. Okay. It's actually really, really important.
Punishes Closer for trying to find the engage.
Yeah, Closer kind of just gifted it to him though. Just hops over way too far ahead of the team. That is
okay.
Guaranteed dragon here on what could have
that was just a big misplay by Closer.
So that is so big for them. You can also see that Spica did pick up the QSS that I was talking about. They recognize how threatening the Mordekaiser ultimate is.
Everything that has to happen from now on has to be centered around the dragon, right? Up until someone gets a soul, or I guess if there's like a really big wipe at a dragon fight, but I think every fight has to be around dragon, because there's no real place to aggress for TSM's composition to aggress onto these tier 2 towers, and there's no real way that Golden Guardians are going to want to be able to do anything the opposite way either. So
there's a Mikael's, there's a Banshee's Veil on Azir, there's a QSS
without someone massively screwing up, obviously.
There's a cleanse on Double Lift. There are really a lot of answers starting to stack up for the very few forms of engage that Golden Guardians have, and I think that does become concerning for them because it allows TSM to have more of an ability to
continuing to go for the Mordekaiser is interesting. He is a problem, but I can see the logic. Because apparently there's no way of getting him off of your carries, despite them being very presumably long range front to back champions that should be able to kite the Mordekaiser, but I made it sound like like they're playing poorly. They're not. I was being very literal. That despite the long range, both of the things miss. Okay, Spica is trying to go for there's the Shen play, and this is really good. Damonte's dead. Hansar is being really good at killing Double Lift. And apparently that's enough to cause all the issues in the world. What is... Huh? I need to watch this whole fight. I need to watch like every person. Okay. So we have the play set up. Okay. Shield ends up pretty much actually being used up fully. Fine. Okay, Damonte is dead. Can't really impact. Spica dies at the same time, pretty much. Hansar is now on Double Lift. Bjergsen isn't really able to help.
Kick Damonte back in. There's the set ulti to get him out there, but Damonte, he just gonna get crushed by Double Lift as the ace in the hole is gonna land. He's not dead just yet. In fact, the counter kill comes as Spica's able to get it, and now Haunter 1v1ing Double Lift. He's in the death realm. He's got no friends to save him from the Mord, and now Haunter gonna flash out to safety. Bjergsen, Eater biting there for who he taunt by Broken Blade. Might be a miss if those FBI flashes in. Gets the shutdown, gets the next kill. It's a double.
But can he buy a QSS though? Instead of that Zeal, can that be a QSS, please? Just by the way. If he has a QSS right here instead of that Zeal, that fight is a wash for TSM. There's no way in my mind it's any different. Especially because of the way that his team wants to play these fights. If it was, oh, you know, we're gonna play defensively. If he gets on top of you, it's our bad. Whatever. Like, okay, sure. But that QSS is such high value against Mordekaiser. No reason why he shouldn't have it here, especially when they're going for this kind of play. And then because the issue is that when Hansar does this, right? We look at how this is going to be positioned. If Double Lift is alive, and so if he gets QSS, right? Yes, he's going to have lower attack speed and lower crit. That's fine. If he's QSS'd, Bjergsen alone cuts off this entire 3. And then they can save Double Lift. And then they can turn if these 3 turn onto Bjergsen, they can turn after Hansar's dead. Oh, disappointing, I think. Because it started off pretty okay. Like, all things considered, I would trade my Lee Sin for a Ziggs. But then, because Doublelift is dead and because you have no real way of killing Hanser, if Bjergsen's here, he's just dead no matter what, right? So, while he would like to stand here and prevent these three from walking in, he has to go further down because of Doublelift dying, and then they have to kill Hanser. Hanser takes a lot of effort to kill. All of Golden Guardians are able to position around Hanser, and then the fight goes pretty bad.
It's not dead just yet. In fact, the counter kill comes as Speaker's able to get it. And now
Doublelift needs a
QSS.
QSS. If QSS isn't his next buy, I'm convinced he doesn't want to win the game. Like, I could genuinely just say he... That is what the high elo players would call soft inting.
Golden Guardians will find the ace.
They couldn't quite kill off Damonte immediately, and he got a lot of damage out before he went down. Then Hanser finding the ultimate over onto Caitlyn, knocking down Doublelift. Bjergsen got bound up out of that.
Okay. So he finished the rapid fire. Fair enough. I better see a QSS. I better see a no magic mantle. Not a no magic mantle. Is it no magic? Yeah. No, no magic mantle. Okay. All right. He has a control. Control wards are fine. You know what? That's fine too. I better see a no magic mantle and a QSS in that inventory very fast.
500 gold between these two will hook up the Honda performance play.
All right, let's watch this one more time. So this was actually a great attempt here from TSM. The flank from Spica looks like it's going to work out wonderfully well. Multi-man kick there, but they couldn't actually find the follow-up damage onto Damonte. I think they just thought he was going to die here immediately, but he got that Ziggs ult out. He gets a kill. He got some damage down on Broken Blade too, and then Doublelift, no QSS on him, no way out of that Mordekaiser ultimate, and they can't actually burst out.
I mean, to be fair, I guess you could argue that it's if Doublelift gets the QSS, Bjergsen probably has to get the QSS. So maybe you could say, well, I mean, you don't want to have them both spend it. If one gets it, they both have to get it. So if neither of them get it,
so they lose the Baron here. They're on the back foot after what feels like 30 minutes of pretty strong control. And remember, Ziggs is going to destroy these towers if he gets even close to them. He has the Baron buff. He has the death cap. So one auto pretty much, and this is gone. And Bjergsen's got to.
And
they're pushing down in bottom side with Broken.
This is really difficult.
Get back to base. They're out of position.
I watched this clip and I was still confused as to what was exactly the logic. Okay, Treats is in their death realm, and now so yeah.
Speaker, he's going to be on the menu. Golden Guardians, they've just ripped open this mid game.
I think it actually end with the next wave here with 3 people dead and Ziggs. You could like 2-hit these towers. I think this is over.
Hanser just straight up walked into a 1v3 and just like came out victorious. He just walks out just fine. Gets 2 kills, walks out, doesn't even care. Yeah, this is game.
Number 1 here to kick off their playoffs run. What a way.
Here, they're on the back foot after what feels like 30 minutes.
500 gold between these two.
Starting to stack up now. When we talked about
they were in the lead before this.
You know, they're so reliant upon
but they were making plays like they were desperate.
Binding, Mordekaiser ult, obviously, you know, kind of
like constantly. They were like, oh, all right, let's TP onto this. Let's Lee Sin start fighting the Mordekaiser, and then I'll ult onto you. Let's Lee Sin go into the fight, and I'll ult onto you. feel like the game ended kind of in a flash. The game felt really in TSM's favor, and then it just like wasn't. Because they aggressed too hard in that fight.
By that same QSS, there's 4 Merc Treads, there's a Mikael.
And I'm sure they thought, oh, this is really sick. Like I thought when I first watched that play, oh, that's actually gonna be pretty good. This right here.
Good setup is gonna forgive all those sins. Is who he looks for.
Okay, they don't have arrow, they don't have binding for a second. We can do something here. We send Demonte really far back into the team. But Haunter is just like allowed to walk into his into double it. I think because he was teleporting right on top of yeah. Wait. Wait, I didn't even see that before. He teleported here and double lift sits here. I thought he sat here and then the teleport finished and then he was ulted after the ult went off. He teleports here, double lift is here, and then he nets this way. To not avoid anything. Wouldn't the right play be to back up here and then have his team come up here? Broken Blade move up here? It'd also be helpful, obviously, to have a QSS. You know who has a QSS? No, I understand why Pika might have it, because he's not really supposed to be a damage threat, and he has extra gold, right? Okay, well, I'll get a QSS, and I can't be targeted by the Mordekaiser. Nice. Mikael's. I don't actually think that works. Does it work? I don't know. Oh my gosh. Let's say it does. Let's say it does just for the sake of argument. I don't know. I actually don't know if it does. Because he didn't use it in the last fight, right? In that last 1v3?
Gonna put somebody in the shadow room with him. It's Streets. Oh no! The Thresh can't get
He didn't
out.
use it. I don't know if that means he can't use it. I would imagine it means he can't use it, but QSS does work, and Mikael's is built from a QSS, right?
They've just ripped open this mid game.
So does it lose functionality?
Wave here with 3 people dead and Ziggs,
When?
you could like 2-hit these towers.
Okay, fine. It's fine. Fine. I just think that they don't need to be that aggressive. I think that what you can do is you can have that play set up, and then Broken Blade stands united after Spica's in danger. Give him extra effective health during that, which might create a more deceptively tanky individual. I think that the shield was used up entirely anyway, but maybe the issue is that Spica can't actually do that without dying. But then I don't think that's the case, because
Back foot after, and then
Find the shutdown, but Golden Guardians will
Let's look at the
find
replay.
the ace.
they couldn't quite kill off Demonte immediately, and he got a lot of damage out before he down all of engage. Right?
replay, please.
Take over.
Yeah, I get it. They get the Baron. Replay.
All right, let's watch
Okay.
this one more time. So this was actually a great attempt.
I don't
from
think
TSM.
Spica
Right
needs.
from Spica. It looks like it's going to work out
He doesn't. He absolutely doesn't.
wonderfully well.
I cannot imagine that he does. I think Spica can always do that without Stand United being used on him. And then Stand United can be used on someone else, or it can be used on onto Spica later on. Because the combo wasn't that great. Where did Broken Blade go after
Multi-man
he
kick
ulted?
there, but they couldn't actually find the follow-up damage on
I mean, he ends up just getting closer. So actually, what ends up happening is he helps closer.
to Demonte. I think they just thought he was going to die here immediately, but
Or he could have helped closer.
He got some damage
So
down on Broken Blade.
then Broken Blade.
Immediately.
I don't think Broken Blade even taunts.
Follow-up damage onto Demonte. I think they just thought he was going to die here immediately,
Okay.
but
No, he taunts away. No, I just don't think that that's a good play. And obviously, Double Lift didn't really kite around the teleport very well. He also doesn't have QSS, which isn't as egregious as I'm making it sound, because it wasn't that much of a factor until just now, but probably should have had QSS. Especially because Bjergsen has the Banshee, so he can't be hit with the ultimate. Treats shouldn't even be touchable anyway. Right? And if Treats is the one that Hunter gets, whatever, man. Then you can just aggress onto the rest of the team, right? Because they lost their Ziggs. An interesting situation. Also, by the way, it is possible for Huhi to Black Shield Demonte right here.
it looks like it's going to work out wonderfully well. Multi-man kick there, but they couldn't actually.
But yeah,
It looks like it's
Black Shield's FBI.
actually a great attempt.
Just like I guess automatically. He's probably thinking, oh, he's gonna Black Shield. I'm gonna need to protect FBI. He doesn't actually need to protect FBI at all. If he Black Shields Demonte, the play ends up being even worse because they don't get Demonte. He still is alive. You lose out on everyone, and in a winning position, they lose the fight because they aggressed and did a thing that their team can't really do.
Very low, and FBI just sees this is my chance. He flashes in on top of Bjergsen, takes him down,
and then every game after this just felt really sad because I mean it's actually kind of the story of this game. Like this fight, let me just go back to the actual fight. Is kind of the story of the series. TSM going for a play and then getting the worst of it, or going for it and not really being able to get anything out of it. And it makes them feel, I guess not lifeless. Lifeless probably isn't the right word, but it makes them feel ineffective, I guess. And then it gets you so tilted that you like teleport in without buying BF sword, and it's just it gets really bad. So hopefully TSM can do better because this wasn't even a bad game. I think that if TSM are in this position, they should be able to win the game. Like 9 times out of 10. They should know how to close it out, and I don't think that this play is the way that you close it out. Genuinely. Also, and this is another really important thing to note, I thought every fight was going to be centered around the dragons. Let's look at the timer after this thing goes away. Look at this. 3 minutes. It feels as though, I don't know. It seems as though every fight should have been centered around the dragons. But maybe they thought, okay, we can really, really quickly kill Monte and everything, and we'll just be able to get out really easily. So maybe the intention wasn't super terrible, but they just didn't see the whole potential fallout from it. But hopefully TSM can do well, and obviously, congrats to Golden Guardians. I've been Rojo.